March into Publishing continues. And I want to touch on a topic today that I think I must because so many people try to tell their life story before they need to. And honestly, we don't care. All right, so I'll get into it. So today I'm going to talk about one of my books. It's Birth of a Saleswoman, Conquer Financial Failure, Create Financial Freedom. I released this in 2018, and let me tell you, so many authors that I have assisted try to tell their life story. And they'll start from when they were born and tell you every dang detail of their life story. Now, this may work for some people, but for most people, it doesn't. You know why? People are inherently pretty much boring. Most people do not live a remarkable life, and please do not be offended. We're just talking facts here, okay? Most people do not live a remarkable life. So what happens is when you just decide I'm going to tell my story without having reached a certain pinnacle of your life, you limit your impact and you limit your reach. So your family may support that story, and I've seen this actually go left. Because depending on what happened to you in your life, like if you were abused, if you were SA'd, if something happened to you, if you expose certain people, it can cause conflict. So I've seen that happen. So pretty much if you're telling your story and that's all that it is, and you haven't reached a certain place in your life, right? Your family may support it, your close friends may support it, and then that's it. Like, so it's okay if you want to document your journey, but if you're thinking that you telling your story is going to lead you to the bestsellers list, it might not unless. So have you achieved something that people rarely do that has been remarkable? So for instance, when we look at entertainers, they share their life story, and usually we care because they made it somewhere in their life. Like they went from being homeless to being like a multi-million dollar success story. People want to hear the backstory. Everybody wants a hero, right? So we see Hollywood that everybody wants a hero, but there is some type of amazing point that that person reached, and people try to tell that story before it happens. So I suggest that you can share parts of your story in context. So I'm going to give you an example. When I wrote this book, and I also did it as a smaller book. So you've seen some of the other books that I've talked about that I did. I always go back to my first book, right? This book was smaller. So there was other books that I put out, and I wanted to do a book that was a little smaller. All books do not have to be the same size. I wanted to share the context of my story in light of financial issues. So I went to the University of Southern California at the age of 18 years old. I did not have financial awareness. My family was poor. We struggled. I did not have knowledge, know-how, anything. So I got on the campus of USC, and they offered me a credit card, and all I had to do was sign up and get a free t-shirt. And it literally threw my life into financial ruins. I spent that money on some stupid stuff for Christmas or something, and spent years and years and years digging myself out of bad choices. Not only was the credit card lack of smartness, a poor choice, but I also had student loans. So yes, I had scholarships, I had grants, but I also had student loans at a private university. So a couple years later, baby, I missed credit card payments, and because I didn't have it, I was a struggling college student and went into this spiral of craziness when it came to finances. So I paralleled my life story, and I did this book because I didn't want to be pigeonholed into publishing. So I had run multiple businesses. I had a dance company. I had a retail store that I sold clothing and products out of. I had an event management company. I was training, and I was doing worship arts at that time. I was also doing publishing. Okay. But I didn't want to get pigeonholed into that. Business events started calling me to sit on panels, to do workshops, to even do keynote speaking, to be a featured speaker. So if all that I was going to talk about was publishing, I was doing myself a disservice because that was not my only business, and that was not my only business experience. So with a lot of people, in particular, they would come and ask me for advice about their business. I had done an online training for 7 weeks about how to operate and run a business. So this book helped me not be pigeonholed. It gave me a book that I could go into business environments and present to people that weren't necessarily looking to publish a project. So what happened was, there was this woman in the Bible who went from widowhood to wealth by becoming a saleswoman. So she was married to this prophet. He died. She had 2 boys. The creditors were coming after her. And so she was complaining about what happened. And so the prophet asked her, what do you want from me? Like, what is it that you have? She said, I have nothing but oil. So I go into like, what is your oil? What is the one thing you never run out of? What is the thing that no matter what, when you have nothing left, you have that? I eventually called it a core talent, which I wrote later. Cultivate your core talent. I'll talk about, this is book 10 I'm talking about today. But cultivate your core talent kind of came out of the same thing. My core talent is teaching and training. So long story short, she took what she had. She had to go borrow vessels. So she had to learn networking, right? And she had to go get empty vessels from her neighbors. Then she had to pour the oil. Then she had to sell the oil. So she had to learn networking. She learned production. She learned how to package and present something in a way, and oil was needed for multiple different industries in that time. So I used my oil, which is teaching and training, to get myself out of debt. So in 2015, I became debt free for the first time. All my student loans were paid off. All my credit cards were paid off, and I got my life together. Okay, so I parallel portions of my life story from when I signed up for that credit card, when I had gone to the grocery store and I tried to buy groceries and I had insufficient funds in my bank account. And back then it wasn't automatic banking, like we have now. It was not that way. So I walked home with no food. So these things happened to me. And I paralleled this story of how she went from widowhood to wealth and how I went from poverty to prosperity by changing what my expectations or what I had grown up with. And I had to educate myself out of that. And I had to do things that were unfamiliar, and I had to do things that were uncomfortable to do that. Okay. So I am saying that if you want to share portions of your life story without saying, I was born in San Francisco, blah, 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 you can share them in context of a lesson that you're using to help other people. If you have not hit a certain level of affluence, influence, success, money, whatever it is, if you make it, people want to hear what you did, right? So I've reached a certain level of influence in publishing because of numbers, but I have not reached like fame, right? So I don't think, hey, good to see you. I don't think that I should just blah, blah, start to tell my story, because for most people it's boring. They don't want those parts. They want the parts that are going to help them. So in context of money, and I don't do financial advisement or planning or anything, I am a person who had to use knowledge through books to transition my life. And so that's why I write books, to help people transition their life. So if people who knew me then or in high school or whenever said, girl, we know where you came from and we see where you are, tell us about it, that's different. So you can absolutely use your life in parallel, which means that there are multiple books that I can publish telling portions of my life story that are relevant to the lesson that I am trying to share. And I hope that helps you before you sit down and start from the beginning. If we don't need all of that at that point, we just may need the particular portions of your life that will help us, that are relevant, that are speaking to where we are now. Okay, so when you look at a lot of celebrity books and things, whether they wrote them or not, people are interested because they saw their journey from the bottom all the way up to the top. Okay, so with my book, I had to help people who wanted to break their old identity of poverty and take risks based on their core talent. So that's why I wrote it. It doesn't, especially for people in business, because usually they start with an idea. Most people that I know who do startup businesses did not start out wealthy, right? So I'm sharing that story and it helps. And so when people say, do you have a book that you would recommend if I want to start a business? I would recommend Birth of a Saleswoman. instead of a publishing book. Do you see what I'm saying? So do not feel that you have to be pigeonholed into any industry. I am not. I am open to multiple ways and doors of opportunity because my core talent is teaching and training. So I want you to cultivate your core talent. And whatever your core talent is, you can go to any industry. If you know what the core of your talent is, you can find success in many doors. Okay. So that's my story of Birth of a Saleswoman, Conquer Financial Failure, Create Financial Freedom. This is book number 10 of 19. Okay. So I hope that helps. Tomorrow, I want to pivot when I share with you tomorrow about how you can use webinars and online education to sell low content books. So I'm going to talk about these two. I sold these books together. Hey, you needed that? It's required, 10 of 19. So I'm going to continue talking. So I'm going to discuss these two. I sold these as a duet. The Money Magnet Success Tracker and the Goldmine Personal Success System. These are low content materials, low content. Everything, this book was a book that I wrote, right? So you see chapters and words and all that. This is a low content book. It is a success tracker. And this is a guided journal. I will say, look, I wrote all in mine because I do it every single year and I do this for my life. This is actually something I do for my life. So I'll talk about how you can use online education, workshops, webinars to pair low content books because the money was in the information. So I was teaching them on the paid webinar, right? And I'll tell you how they paid for it. But I was teaching them how to use the success systems that I set up. I don't want you pigeonholed as a publisher or an author in any kind of way. They're all online on the world's largest bookstore, AMZ, okay? All of them. Look up Rakisha Pittman. They're there. Or look up Success Speaks Global. I publish these. I'll also talk about how to publish under a brand. So you see how these books were Rakisha Pittman? Well, I published these books under my brand at that time. And you can publish as a business. You can, under your same account, on the world's largest bookstore that delivers into your house a day or two. You can publish as a brand. So if you have a brand, you can publish under that and all the royalties still come to me. It is freeing, you all. It is freeing. So do not be pigeonholed in any type of way. I've also published under pen names and I'll talk about that, but I will show you how to leverage these things. So what happened was, and I'll talk about it more tomorrow, but they sent me the receipts for this and I gave them a ticket to the Webucation, but they had to go buy the books online. You can sell books all different kinds of ways. I'm so excited to continue to march into publishing with you. Okay, I have big things planned for 2025. If you are an entrepreneur, author, speaker, trainer, you will want to stay connected to me and stay tuned because we're going beyond just the online training to physical in-person courses and classes that you can take so we can develop you as an entrepreneur, author, speaker, trainer. All right, you all. So tomorrow I will be back. I'm so happy. My birthday's this week. But tomorrow I will be back and I will discuss these two books. So books 11 and 12 and how you can leverage that in your business to boost the bottom line. All right, y'all. Thank you for your comments and I will see you tomorrow, same time. Bye.